Okay, good evening, members of council, member staff, and the general public. Welcome to our February 16th regular council meeting. I have a motion moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Sam McDonnell. Be resolved that the February 16th, 2021 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be open at 7:01 p.m. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. I can ask everyone to please rise for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you, Kelly. Before we continue with the agenda this evening, we have a special presentation to make this evening. So if we can ask Ewan McDonald to turn his camera on, please. Thank you, Ewan. So I would like to take a few minutes to recognize the retirement of Ewan McDonald. Ewan started with the township as the road superintendent in August 24th, 1992. In 1994, he received AOR's designation as a certified roads supervisor. In 1999, his title changed to Public Works Director when the amalgamation occurred at the end of 1998. In 2002, he completed the Strategic Business Administrative course. In 2005, successfully completed the ORFA's Professional Designation Program, plus numerous courses and certificates with the Ontario Good Roads Association. Ewan sat on the board for the Ontario Good Roads Association as a board of director for a number of years. In 2012, he completed a session on operating small drinking water systems with the Eastern Ontario Health Unit. And in 2017, training to familiarize with the operations of an airport. Also in 2017, received a certificate for recreation facilities. And I'm sure he has many other certificates and courses that he completed and received. Ewan is definitely recognized across the province due to his position as a member on the board of directors for the OGRA for the province of Ontario. I've had the pleasure of working with Ewan for 25 years of his working career, and I can honestly say I will certainly miss having you around the township office. Ewan, on behalf of council, staff, and all residents, we would like to say thank you for your dedication, your compassion, and hard work with the Township of South Glengarry. We wish you the best in your retirement and the best of health, and enjoy your new hobbies, and hopefully in time, lots of traveling and spending time with your family. Again, thank you for your dedication, and we wish you all the best. Congratulations. On behalf of the Township, we do have a small presentation to make to you this evening. I present to you a township jacket on behalf of the township. So congratulations to you, sir. Oh. And we do have 3 scrolls here. One is from the Township of South Glengarry, another one is from MP Eric Duncan, and the other one is from MPP Jen McInnell. So I'll hand those over to you also. Okay, thanks very much again, Johan. I understand that you wanted to say a couple of words.
Off to a wonderful start, didn't unmute. Thank you, Mayor Prevost, for your kind words. As I reflect upon my career with South Glengarry, I am appreciating all of the wonderful people I have met and worked with over these past 29 years. Colleagues from across the province, engineers, consultants, lawyers, provincial and federal bureaucrats and politicians, contractors, and of course the staff and councils from South Glengarry. During my time here, I have worked for 6 mayors and 5 CAOs, and I have learned and grown from each and every one of them. When I was hired in 1992, the township had been through a recent labor strike, and there had been several changes to the administration. When I inquired about the roads crew, I was advised that the crew was Bruno, Buck, the Moon, Black Diamond, Slewfoot, Butch, Bladderweed, the Red Rooster, and the Rabbi. What was I getting myself into? Thankfully, it all worked out. I would like to acknowledge 3 politicians who have had an instrumental part in my career with the township. Reeve Dave McDonald, who hired me in 1992. I am grateful that Dave took a chance on me, and I've always used a similar philosophy when hiring employees for the township. It is not always about what you bring to the table. We need to look beyond what is on paper and consider what that person's potential could be and what they could achieve in the future. Mayor Ian McLeod, who I also mentored under prior to being hired by the township. Ian expected nothing less than the best you could do with whatever it was you were doing. He was like a teacher, that teacher you had who pushed you to achieve and would not accept mediocrity. I would not be here today, nor would I be the person I am today without Ian's inspiration. And Mayor Frank Prevost, my friend Frank, who has been a pillar for this township and has been on council for much of my career. Frank is fiercely dedicated to excellence in customer service for his constituents. He has made a number of difficult and challenging decisions, always in the best interest of the township. I have heard from time to time that being a nice person was a downside for people in positions of authority. I do not prescribe to this philosophy, and I know Frank does not either. This township and the world could use a huge injection of kindness, and I know Frank will continue to lead with compassion and grace. I have been blessed to have worked with such a fantastic staff who are incredibly committed and passionate about the services they provide. To the roads crew, water and wastewater crew, the parks and recreation crew, the brave men and women in our fire services, our building and bylaw staff, the students, and all the administration staff at the office, I am profoundly grateful to you for your support. And it has been an honor and a privilege to have been part of such a wonderful team. If it were not for these dedicated individuals, the township of South Glengarry would not be Ontario's Celtic heartland. It would simply be Ontario's Celtic land. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Soin java, and God bless.
Thanks very much, Johan, and once again, congratulations, and we wish you all the best. Thank you. Okay, I have a motion moved by Lyle Warden, second by Martin Lang. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda. Any additions or removals from the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have an addition to other business, and that is a resolution regarding the automatic speed enforcement that we discussed at our last council meeting. So that will be added as item 7B3. And then we have a number of items that have been requested to be pulled out of information only into other business, those being item 7D1, the water bill mock-up, 7D14, the Upper Canada District School Board letter, item 7D15, the Eastern Ontario Health Unit letter, 7D17, the support resolution regarding MFIPA reform, and finally 7D18 being the resolution regarding the Ontario Fire College closure.
Okay, thank you. So we'll add those to other business. Is there anything else from other members of council? Not seeing none, so the motion would be as amended. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll be declaring a conflict of interest on one of the matters to be dealt with in closed session.
Okay, if you can fill out your form and send that into the clerk tomorrow morning, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. I have a motion moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council of the Township of South Glengarry held on February 1st, 2021, including the closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. You heard the motion. All in favor? Motion's carried. We have no presentations or delegations this evening, so we'll move into new business staff reports. SDNG Library Lancaster Branch updated evaluation and feasibility study funding. Mr. Knowles. Apologize if I slip out and call you Mr. Simpson, because I've been doing that all day today. So, but we'll go with Mr. Mills for now.
This kind of relates to the counties and Mr. Simpson.
You're right. You're true.
So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you, and good evening, council. I'm going to bring you a report tonight about the Lancaster Library Branch for considering updating and evaluating the physical space and a feasibility study and getting some funding from the counties. Just as a little background, a few months ago, the director of SDNG County Library, Karen Franklin, brought a delegation to council requesting that we look at meeting the needs and expectations of our citizens a little better by adding space to the Lancaster Library Branch. This has become even more evident and more in focus because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And also for considerations improving service excellence and access to library services in the town of Lancaster. An evaluation and a feasibility study that is now almost 18 years old was done in 2003 by Ron Rayslide Architects. The objective of that study, which is attached to your agenda and the package tonight, was the maintenance and protection of a heritage building as a key element of the architectural landscape of the village of Lancaster and maintaining public use of the building. We would like, through the county's funding, to consider a revised study of the library that would include some options, updated costs, options and plans for undertaking projects to increase the library space and potential for expansion. It also would, being a heritage building and having been looked at for a long time, perhaps determine some issues or problems with maintenance and repairs, restoration, accessibility. So things have changed considerably since 2003 with accessibility. There's limited staff workspace. And then I've mentioned the health issues. It would help staff, SDNG library staff, to move forward with any funding opportunities that also could arise in the next year. In light of the previous work completed by Ron Rayslide Architects, administration, which is extremely comprehensive, administration feels it'll be prudent to engage the same firm to complete an updated evaluation and feasibility report in the library with an approximate cost of $20,000. Administration has approached the United Counties of SDNG for funding support to obtain an updated evaluation and feasibility study for the Lancaster branch of the SDNG libraries. And we do understand that that was discussed today at County Council. At this point, we don't anticipate with the study having any impact on budget, but if there were recommendations there, certainly we'd be bringing them back to council before proceeding with anything. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I'll turn that back over to you.
Okay, thank you. Like Mr. Mills said, it was discussed at our budget this afternoon at the county council, and it was, I guess, approved, for the library to go forward with that study. Approximately, I believe it was a $20,000 charge for that feasibility study. So once that it's approved in our March meeting, then we will probably receive it sometime in May, I would think, or maybe early June before we get the report back. Is there any other questions or comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor Warden.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add that the funding is provided from a COVID relief package, so it's not affecting the taxation. It's a great time to examine potential uses for the future. As we know, the library is very well used, but in this environment, it's very limited to what services can be provided inside. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the results.
Yes, thank you for adding that, Deputy Mayor Warden. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I look forward to hearing the report. Could we send a note to the contractors or whoever does the study in the end that we do consult with our local Legion branch, as they're right close to there. If there is any expansion, it could affect them potentially.
Okay,
for sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, for sure. We'll do that.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion moved by Martin Lang, second by Lyle Worden. Be resolved that staff report 19-2021 be received and that the council directs administration to seek funding for an updated evaluation of feasibility study from the United Counties of SDNG and proceed once funding is secured. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And signing authority, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize for my background. I'm again in my bedroom, so we got the bridge in Williamstown behind me. This is to appoint Deputy Treasurer Kaylin McDonald as the signing authority on behalf of the corporation. I was signing authority whenever I was Deputy Treasurer. It gives us one more person to sign. Not that we run into trouble too often, but it doesn't hurt, so it's fairly housekeeping item. So if there are any questions, I'm available.
Okay, thank you. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but is there any questions or comments? Not seeing none. I have a motion moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Lyle Worden. Be resolved that staff report 20-2021 be received and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry authorize that all checks of the corporation drawn on its accounts be signed on its behalf by Mayor Frank Prevost, CAO Tim Mills, GM of Finance Treasurer Lachlan McDonald, and Deputy Treasurer Kaylin McDonald, and that they also be authorized to sign all other documents required in this matter. You heard the motion. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. You might as well stay on. We got water rates and structure.
Yeah, this one will be a little bit more straightforward than that last staff report. So as you know, we've been talking about water and the rates and the setup for them for some time now. Likely back to September 2019. So this is the penultimate moment, pending acceptance, or if there is any further information required after the staff report. We're very close to a bylaw, which would be nice. So in this staff report, I did go through the history. I don't want to talk perfectly on everything, but I'll get to the newer stuff. So in the analysis, it does mention how our projections, and they always have, included a one-third grant application in terms of how we would fund our bigger projects. This may or may not be true. We have been successful in water projects in the past, and we also have not been successful. Just something to keep in mind, but that has always been part of our funding. Furthermore, you'll notice towards the end of the staff report that the rate is decreased. Some of that is from, well, it's from EVB's report last June or July, and they used a more nearer term and recent past capital for capital requirements as opposed to our previous looking for long-term forecast. Both are ways how to do it, and both are, I've looked at a few studies and there are more using their way. So it is a good method to use. Former Mayor McLeod would say, outside of 10 years, you're crystal balling. So some of our previous one had that information. So point number 13 touches on EVB's recommendation, and I agree with it all. Point number 14 is a little bit confusing in that I say save for Lancaster. It's just because I feel we should approach the multi-unit conversation too. So I do agree with them with their point. Just wanted to bring back the multi-unit conversation. Scrolling through, if you go to point number 16, it's 4 of 7 of that particular staff report. If anybody needs a update on multi-units and how that works, if it wasn't clear, please let me know and I'd be glad to share with you. I take us through on point number 19, 20, and 21. So those are the boxes on page 5 of the staff report. Number 1 would be where we are currently, so that's point number 19. Point number 20 would be with EVB's proposed billing. And then point number 21 would be with EVB's proposed billing and then moving the multiplier on subsequent units to 80%, which was where we were going to be had we not stopped for this review in 2019. So I do reflect that there will be some decent sized changes in the reserve transfers. That being said, I believe I provided them way up top. We do bill 6 times a year, so we're looking to apply this change in the next bill if possible. A summary of all the caveats, I applied them, but I've said them already today. And a summary of the outcome would be Green Valley increasing by 3% until 2025, Redwood at 10% until 2025, Glen Walter at 3% until 2025, and then Lancaster going from that 184 to 144, and then 3% until 2025. And I'm recommending multi-units go to 80%. And that was from the past council, we had talked about that one. So there would be a bylaw to follow this to get that rate structure set up for the next few years. And the impacts on the budget are listed further below. So I'll open it to council. I don't want to take all of your time to read something that you've already read. So I'll open the floor to any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonald. I'll go to Deputy Mayor Warden, then Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thank you for the detailed report. There is a lot of information, and this has been a hot button topic for quite some time. The only issue I have per se, I think the 3% going into 2025, I think is feasible. I'm not in favor of reducing the rates. I feel like we're doing a disservice to our residents going backwards. Water and sewer is extremely expensive, and I feel like $1 saved today is worth more in the future. And I feel like even though it may be a slight relief, I feel like we're putting ourselves further in the hole. And again, all this is based on one-third funding that may not be there in the future. And debentures are quite expensive. So aside from that, I'm okay with the report. Just if you could, one further question, Mr. Mayor, the multi-units go to 80%. So is that ongoing in perpetuity, or will they eventually get to one unit, like one charge for each unit, 100%?
That is a good question, and it is clarification that I should have been more clear in my writing. Previous council had moved it to 1-for-1, so we'd go 80%, and then 90% then be 1-for-1. That was the intention of this staff report, was to get back on track and then get to that 1-for-1.
So so if we pass this as presented in 3 years, it'll be 100%?
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. McDonald, for your work on this file. I know it's been a long haul. I think, you started in June 2019 on this. So I think on the whole, the work, that's been done, I'm quite comfortable with it. I think it helps develop, the long-term vision and plan for funding that, the users would want, that helps them have like reasonable and predictable charges. However, for me, the one item that I don't feel comfortable with and that I do want further information on is on that issue of the multi-unit residences. Like I've said this before, I mean, at a basic level, to me, it just doesn't make sense that an apartment is having the same minimum charge as a detached house. I mean, looking at someone that has a lawn versus not having a lawn. But worse than that, for me, like particularly when it comes to the retirement homes, where their units really are more like dormitories with small kitchenettes, I think it's even more wrong that they're being charged like a full minimum charge. So, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong in those assumptions in terms of their usage, but that's where I would like some more information, if it's possible to have a comparison of, what's a typical single house use in terms of average water consumption versus one of these, apartments or units that, you might find in the long-term care or in the retirement homes, what they're typically using as an average. And to look at, if those averages are quite different, I think that's an argument for why those, like there should be a smaller rate slightly smaller for multi-unit residences. And my understanding is that's what's common in other systems, is that apartment, type residences get, have a lower rate. It's what we have here is more uncommon, this one-to-one approach. So that's where I would like there to be more information before going ahead with the bylaw.
Okay, and I can get that information. I don't know exactly how much. I think at a minimum it would take 4 hours, but my father always said, take a minimum, times it by 50%, and double that. So it could get to 12 hours, but so it might not be on the next meeting, but it will be worked towards. And I'll be sure to utilize our deputy treasurer, who is very familiar with the water system and the insides of that, to do that. If that's what council wishes, we could, I guess, if the clerk may say deferred, if that's what you're looking for. And I'm willing to take that on, because if you have questions, we haven't come this far, just come this far, right? So we'll make sure we get it right, so everybody feels comfortable about it.
But so I think deferral is my preference, but certainly depends on what the will of council is.
Thank you. We do have a comment or a question from Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councillor Jaworski. I'd like to see more as far as multi-residentials are concerned. I agree with her. I don't think it's fair for them to be paying that same base minimum. They don't have yards. It's not like there's a possibility they're filling their swimming pool here and there. There's nobody washing a car. I'd agree with her that with Councillor Jaworski that we defer and get a little more information as far as that's concerned. And it might be nice to see what North Glengarry does as far as with multi-residentials. I know there's quite a few in Alexandria. That would be give us a good starting point, at least for myself. I would like to see that.
Okay, thank you. So we can defer that and ask Mr. McDonald to come back at a later time in regards to the information that council members are asking this evening. But just to remember that if it's an apartment or a condo, they're probably using the minimum charge, which they would end up using, the same as a single family home. And the ones that do have grass and swimming pools and so on would probably go over the minimum. So that's where the extra would come in, to have the lawn, I guess, watering your lawn or filling your swimming pool. But that's how it came up with 3 people living in an apartment or versus 3 people living in a single family home. We felt it was fair that it was 1-to-1. But we'll ask Mr. McDonald. We will defer this for this evening, and we'll ask Mr. McDonald to come back with more information at a later date. Go ahead, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was there anything else that needed to be vetted before coming? So I will look at this certainly. Is there anything else, just so I don't come back multiple times to bother you?
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Warden, did you want to more information in regards to what you were speaking about earlier, or are you okay with what?
No, I feel I'm fine with, I would sooner hold off on the reduction and proceed forward just to put more in reserves, but it will be what the will of council wants.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments or questions that we want Mr. McDonald to look into? If not hearing any this evening, we can defer it. And if there's any comments or questions, we can get a hold of Mr. McDonald in the next week or so, or a couple of weeks. And if we're not thinking of something this evening, and then you'll bring a report back probably either late March or early April, I would presume.
That would be correct, yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Okay, we'll move to number 4, approval of water and wastewater reports. Mr. Sege. Oh, I see your name. There you are.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. On February 1st, I did bring to Council the 6 annual reports for the Water and Wastewater Department. So with the reports, we were looking for your review and acceptance of the reports. With your acceptance, of course, of the reports, we will be submitting it to the MOECP for our final step in this matter. And I can answer any questions if there is any at this present time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Seguin, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge that late today I did receive from the Ministry of Environment and the annual compliance reports for both Lancaster and Glen Walter, the inspection reports, and I'm very pleased to announce that Mr. Seguin and his staff have achieved 100% compliance in both of those locations. So congratulations to you, Dylan. That's great work. And these annual reports will be posted as well on our website. That Mr. Seguin is definitely continuing to operate our plants at 100% compliance, and that's an achievement I think needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. McDonald, and congrats, Mr. Seguin, for bringing us to that level. So we congratulate you for doing that. Is there any other questions or comments from members of council for Mr. Seguin? Not seeing none. I have a motion moved by Sam Actonel, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be resolved that staff report 22-2021 be received, and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry acknowledge receipt of the 2020 annual reports for the Redwood Estates, Lancaster and Glen Walter water treatment plants, and the Lancaster, Green Valley, and Glen Walter sewage treatment plants. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Seguin. We'll move to number 5, Public Works Facility Procurement 23-2020. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The tender closed for the construction of a pre-engineered building on September 28th, and I'm pleased to report that the prices that we received, the submissions were very competitive. We had 6 submissions. 1 was deemed non-compliant, but of the other 5, the range was very tight, from 1.18 million to 1.6, and in a project of this size, that's pretty competitive bidding. The tender is for the building only. As council knows, we had decided that we would not include all of the site works, the well, the services, the septic system in the same tender, that we would probably be able to benefit from some efficiencies by doing those separately for the site works. So those will have to be done through either individual contracts or through requests for quotations. I have been in discussions with both the low bidder, being Grant Marion, and the engineer in engineering that did the design. We are going to make every effort to acknowledge and recognize any efficiencies we can find as we move from the tender process to the actual construction process. Things such as whether Grant Marion might have some thoughts for other energy efficiency measures that could be implemented, and those could be introduced through change orders, and if there's significant cost, of course, approved by council. But we're hoping that we can move forward and stay well within the submission price, and that we will see this facility commence construction in May and be completed in October, November. So the price is very competitive. I think that we are ready to move forward. We've been discussing this project for about 4 years, And I believe that we have a contractor that we're familiar with. We are going to try to limit the amount of consulting oversight on the project, given that we have the contractor, and I've talked that we are familiar with, and I've talked to the engineers about that, and we know there will be some milestone events where inspections will be required in a general review, but we're going to make every effort as we move forward to ensure that this project is brought forward and that the construction takes place in an effective and efficient manner. I'm recommending that we award the tender and that we move forward with the work and get this building built.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonald. I will open it up to questions or comments from members of council. Deputy Mayor Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am looking forward to approving this tender. I think we've talked the talk, and I'm looking forward to hearing some energy efficient change orders coming forward. As a person said to me, once you pour the floor, you can't add insulation underneath it. So maybe we'll look at getting our energy efficiency up. And I know the buildings that Grant Marion constructs are pretty efficient. Looking forward to moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing none. I have a motion moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be resolved that staff report 23-2021 be received and that the tender 23-2020 for the construction of a public works facility be awarded to Grand Mario Construction as per their submission of $1,179,000 plus HST, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign any relevant documents. You heard the motion. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Mr. McDonald, after 4 years, it took your last meeting to get it approved. So congratulations on that, sir. We'll move to number 6, water shortage facility, joint project with Parks Canada. I believe Chief Albertson, go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, council and members of the public. First off, I'd like to thank you for your guidance on moving the public roads facility, the public works facility forward. That'll allow us in the fire service to advance our proposed project to renovate the existing Williamstown Roads Garage and convert it into a new Williamstown Fire Station. So that's exciting news for our members, and we look forward to that. So building on the good news, I want to bring forward to council part of the new renovation Williamstown Fire Station at the Roads Garage would be a water storage tank. There is no municipal water system in the village of Williamstown. So part of the requirements for the fire station would be to have a water storage facility, and that would be an underground tank. Step aside from that, our neighbor, Parks Canada, at their Sir John Johnson house, that's a recognized federal historics building, and part of their mandate to keep it as such is to have a fire suppression system in that building. The current fire suppression system was installed in the 1980s, at a time when they were doing significant work on the building. The entirety of the basement of that museum, of that house, are water storage tanks. And currently the system needs to be completely overhauled and replaced. They're unsure and they highly doubt that they'll be able to use the same type of system involved. So in last year, or actually in 2019, I was assisting them with some fire inspection requirements. And in those conversations, we talked about a renovated fire station next door and a water storage tank. And those discussions developed into how we could maybe assist each other with some of their requirements. So basically, this report tonight is to ask permission of council to engage further with Parks Canada, more on an official basis, where they would have some engineering work done to see if we can mitigate a partnership where their their fire suppression system would draw off of our water storage tank within our on our municipal property. So as far as costs go, we're not sure of those at this time. I suspect that there will be some additional equipment and maybe even additional capacity to that water storage facility. All of those costs, would be, in my opinion, would be borne of Parks Canada. And hopefully there will be some cost savings with some shared usage and maybe future annual fees for that connection that would be, taking care of maintenance, etc. So basically, this staff report is limited just to requesting council's permission to further engage Parks Canada in an effort to initiate a further partnership. So if there's any questions.
Sorry, we have a question from Councillor Lang and then Deputy Mayor Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you, Mr. Robertson, for the report. I see this as a win-win for Township and for Parks Canada. I think, we can help each other out, and there will be extra equipment, but I'm thinking that it may help with our cost a bit, and it may help with their cost a bit. So I'm glad to see this partnership moving forward, and I'm all in favor of supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Deputy Mayor Warden.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I too am in favor of it. The only question I would have would be, if something happened and the equipment was faulty, that the township wouldn't be held liable or something along those lines. But I'm certainly in favor of anytime you can collaborate. I would just hope that it goes through the proper channels for us to be protected.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's an excellent point. Thank you for bringing it forward, and we will ensure that any agreement protects the municipal standing. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? I guess the only comment I'd have, Chief Robertson, I agree with Councillor Lang in regards to partnerships. I think we need to do that more often with our neighboring partners as much as we possibly can, especially if there's a savings for either party or both parties. The only thing I guess I would ask is that any dollars that we do receive from Parks Canada within respect to the agreement that we will put in place, is that it would go into a separate reserve, and that those dollars would only be spent in regards to any upgrading of that facility, I guess, or any repairs to the tank or the equipment that supplies it into that tank. I think that's where those dollars should go.
Okay, as part of this will all be brought back to council as we proceed further, and both of those notes I will update council with how we.
Yeah, that's just for future information, I guess. But thank you. I have a motion moved by Lyle Warden, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 24-2021 be received, and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry directs administration to engage Parks Canada and any other applicable federal agencies in an effort to initiate partnerships regarding the proposed water storage system located at the municipal maintenance facility at 19686 William Street. Heard the motion. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chief. And we'll go to number 7, private road conversion bylaw. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This bylaw was presented in draft form to council 2 meetings ago, and since that time we've had some discussion, and we have made a revision based on some of the comments from that meeting in regards to the overall specifications of a private road and what would be required to bring that road to a municipal standard. And we've revised that to include an asphalt surface, which was an excellent point, given that any development that occurs through a subdivision, that's a requirement too. So in item number 11 of the staff report, I think it kind of covers off why we're doing this. We want to make sure that we're consistent, that we are adhering to our official plan, that we have roads that we assume that are built to a proper municipal standard, and that we don't end up passing development costs along to the general tax base. and that we have a means to control the assumption of private roads. This doesn't all happen all that much, but at least we have the policy now that should someone come forward to inquire about the municipality taking, assuming that public road, there's now something in writing. This is essentially what we've been doing for many, many years. It just was an informal policy. So now we do have a policy and a bylaw, and it does allow council the opportunity through the bylaw or through the policy to review each request on a site-by-site basis, because we know there are some situations where, because of physical constraints and encroachments, perhaps the municipal standard can't be met. So at the end of the day, council does still have some flexibility to work with the private road residents. So I'm bringing the staff report and the bylaw back for third and final reading this evening. And there have been some minor revisions, but it is essentially quite similar to what you saw a month ago.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Not seeing none. I have a motion moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Sam McDonnell. Be resolved that staff report 25-2021 be received, and bylaw 07-2021 being a bylaw to establish a policy for the assumption of private roads be read a third and final time the 16th day of February 2021. You heard the motion. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Number 8, good news story, pickup truck tender 01-2021. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is what I consider very good news. As you just mentioned, we budgeted to replace 4 pickup trucks this year that are listed there, showing their age and where they're deployed. The 4 pickup trucks came in at $33,388 per unit for a 4x4 2022 Silverado from Roy's in Green Valley. And the other prices we received were very competitive as well. We know that during COVID times, there are some issues with supply of trucks and equipment. We're recommending that we proceed so that we can have the trucks confirmed, and that we'll have the delivery of those pickup trucks in July or August of this year.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Warden.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is great news. As stated, that we budgeted $180,000. Question for you, Mr. McDonald: is it possible that we could use the surplus funds in this budget line to buy out the leases from the other township vehicles, the water trucks that were leased and whatnot?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's an excellent point, Deputy Mayor Warden. We've already had that discussion about those 3 trucks that are coming off of lease in June, and they are being leased with Roy's as well. Because of, if we wanted to purchase new trucks, we would need to re-tender, but that is something that we've investigated. I have had a discussion with the procurement lawyer that we've worked with, Mr. Chamberlain, about whether we could purchase additional trucks. And the answer was what I expected. We would have to re-tender close to that date. But purchasing the trucks, buying out the trucks at the prices that we had quoted, I think it was $22,000 for the 2 Silverados and $19,000 for the Colorado. That definitely can be drawn from the fleet reserve, because we're not going to be depleting it as much as we could. So that's a decision council can make to reallocate those funds from the reserve that was going to pay for the pickup trucks, or and allocate it to the buyout or purchase of new trucks for the water and wastewater.
When is the lease renewal on those, Ewan?
In June of this year, Mr. Mayor.
So we'd have to wait till then and then re-tender, I guess, and then decide if we're going to pull out the money in reserves.
Yeah.
Or purchase new ones at that point. Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I do think that we should look very seriously at possibly re-tendering in April. Give some time and just go back out to tender for 3 additional trucks. These are municipal rates that we get, so the provincial subsidy is there up until June. So we may be able to secure another 3 trucks, 3 new trucks, but those are options that Mr. Mills and Mr. Sagan will be reviewing.
Okay, my question, I guess, would be, sorry, Deputy Mayor Warden, what years are the trucks with that at 22,000? I presume it's 22,000 each.
Yeah, they're 3 years old. They were 36-month leases.
So the pricings we're getting roughly at 33,000 might be the option to look at new ones at that point. But anyway, we'll see what happens in the springtime when we get to that. Deputy Mayor Warden.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I was thinking the same. Is it possible that we could make sure staff brings this report back before the deadline for the provincial grants for these tenders? Because I think 33,380, like that's a really good price for a 4x4 pickup truck. And I mean, if the buyout is on 20, we're better off to buy new trucks. But I'd like to make sure that we're able to eligible for that provincial grant so we can get our ducks in a row.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it was in fact Mr. Mills, our CAO, that suggested we consider purchasing the truck. So I think he's got it on his radar, and we'll definitely be pursuing that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing none. I have a motion moved by Martin Lang, second by Lyle Warden. Be resolved that staff report 26-2021 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award procurement 01-2021 for the purchase of 4 pickup trucks to Roy's Pontiac Buick as per their submission of $33,388 plus HST per unit, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign any relevant documents. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. And number 9 is granular materials tender 0-2021. Another good news story.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, as you'll see, the unit price has actually decreased from last year by 15 cents a ton. So with our 30,000 tons that we purchased for our granular road system on overlay, we overlay 50% of the granular roads every second year. So, we alternate every year with 50% of the roads getting a granular treatment. We will vary or deviate from that should there be a road that's been identified as a problem child, if you will, and we'll make sure we address those priorities. But this is again a submission that's below what we budgeted, and the price is very competitive, lower than last year, and the other submissions, as you'll see, second bidder is only 5 cents a ton difference. So it's a competitive market out there, and I think we're situated very well here with our local quarry operations, and we're getting good competitive prices.
Okay, thank you. Ewan, just because we came in with a lower number, is there? I know you were talking about sometimes we move around just based on a particular road, but is there other roads that you see that we should use, maybe the additionals that we budgeted for to be ahead of schedule, I guess, if you want to call it that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, reallocation of funds, I'd be a little reluctant to say let's move that money into something else right at the moment, because we're still moving into the spring and we're still getting a lot of our prices and quotations in place for the year. So perhaps it's something we need to revisit with Mr. McDonald and Mr. LeBlanc and with Mr. Mills in the early part of summer, just to see how we're doing with all of our projects. And I'm sure that Mr. LeBlanc, I know for sure, would say that he could find a place to put that to spend that money. So.
Sure, you're right. Okay, thank you.
We will also have the completed road needs study by that time, so that'll give us some direction as well as to where we might want to allocate additional resources.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you, and thank you, Ewan, for the report. It's nice to see prices coming in under what we budgeted. And I know this isn't the time or place to discuss the extra, but just for council to keep in mind, and maybe staff as well, if the price of granular overlay is reasonable, I'd sure love to see some of the peanut line get a little tender loving care. And we talked about it the last few years of putting a few loads. And I know we've had some reshaping done there this past fall. And it might be a good time to put a little bit on there if prices are reasonable. So keep that in mind for a future report in the spring.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. That's a very good comment. We can certainly look at those extra dollars, like you said, maybe in early June or middle of June to see if we have any additional dollars, but we certainly need to look after our peanut line if we're going to maintain it and keep it. So any other comments or questions? Not seeing none. I have a motion moved by Sam Atenel, second by Martin Lang. Be resolved that staff report 27-2021 be received and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry award tender 02-2021 for the supply and placement of granular materials to Cornwall Gravel Company Incorporated in accordance with their procurement submission in the amount of $313,500 plus HST for 30,000 tons of granular at a cost of $10.45 per ton, plus applicable taxes, and furthermore, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all appropriate documents. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Okay, we'll move to number 10, utility vehicle procurement 04-2021. Chief Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to our recreation department, various equipment is required to fulfill our responsibilities for inspections, upkeep, maintenance of many of our outdoor spaces. In the 2021 capital budget process, we proposed the additional purchase, of another piece of equipment, another asset. That piece of equipment would be a utility vehicle, more often referred to as a side-by-side vehicle, an all-terrain vehicle. This unit would be able to be used in all 4 seasons for inspections, especially, you just mentioned the peanut trail. This is something that we do need to focus on. This piece of equipment with a fully enclosed cab, heating, all of the amenities, dump box in the back. This is something that will allow our staff to actually fulfill that mandate. So this unit, it'll predominantly be used by recreation, but it is also an asset that we can use with both the roads department at times and also fire services. This is something that we can use off-road for the odd rescue. We already do have one in the fire service, but we never know what the incident that we're responding to. So assets like this have significant value. We reached out to 3 local dealerships to have them explain to us what their offerings would be. And then we proceeded with a public procurement 04-2021. That was published in our standard avenues of the media, and the website. So 2 respondents submitted quotes to that procurement. The respondents were Murray Motorsports in Alexandria and Green Valley Kubota in Green Valley. Green Valley Kubota actually forwarded 2 submissions, one for a diesel and one for a gas version. All 3 proposed units were put through our standard scoring matrix. The diesel submission, diesel piece of equipment submission from Green Valley Kubota scored the highest. It has many more features than we had actually specified. One item, it did not meet the specifications. It has a maximum speed of 40 kilometers an hour versus our specified 60 kilometers an hour. In considering that, we think that that's not a significant enough item that we should penalize it to a great deal. So it did score the highest in our scoring matrix, and it meets all the requirements that we're looking for. It is under budget. $25,000 was budgeted. The prices come in at $22,663. It is a diesel. It comes with heating, with air conditioning, a very solid machine with a great reputation. So we're requesting that council that we can move forward with a purchase for that diesel unit from Green Valley Kubota in the amount of $22,663. plus HST.
Okay, thank you for your report, Chief. Mr. McDonald, do you have your hand up? Is that? No, okay. I wasn't sure because you had a hand up on there. I wasn't sure if you had a comment towards that or not. Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor Warden?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm very happy with the quotes. I think that's a good value. And I think with the Kubota name, there's a ton of attachments that could potentially be added to this piece of equipment in the future. And 40 kilometers an hour, I think is fast enough when you're heading down the Peanut line. So thank you.
I agree, and I like the comment, Chief Robertson, in respect that, you know, to be used mostly for recreation, but certainly the opportunity for the roads department, maybe even our landfill sites and for fire services. We always have to remember that it's not a recreational vehicle, it's a Township of South Glengarry vehicle. So anywhere we can use the vehicle throughout the township would be a great asset. And I agree with Deputy Mayor Warden, the prices come in quite reasonable in regards to what you're asking for. So thanks for that. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing none. Oh, Councillor McDonnell.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think the prices are in the range of reasonable, especially for the options we're looking for. I still think we're putting the carriage before the horse here. I'd like to see more of a plan for the Peanut line because I think that's the main reason we're purchasing this machine. So I don't think I'm ready to buy a side-by-side for the township. I know Councillor Lang will remind me how much I like mine, but I just don't feel we're quite ready for that yet. I think we've got to do a little more figuring on what we want to do with some of the assets we plan to use this on, and I don't think we're there. But that's my personal opinion.
Okay, Chief Robertson.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your comment, Councillor McDonnell. You can expect a staff report on the Peanut line with the beginning of the discussions on how we move forward in the near future. That's something internally that we're having significant talks with right now on many fronts, and we will be proposing various avenues moving forward to council in the near term. So,
excellent. I look forward to hearing that report. Thank you very much, Mr. Chief Robertson.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the other side to the Peanut line is we always have to remember that the dollars that are going to have to be spent on the Peanut line are going to be probably drastic dollars. So it probably will not occur over 1 year. It could take 3 to 5 years maybe to complete the whole Peanut line. But in the process, we do have that vehicle to maintain and run the Peanut line and other parks and recreation and whatever fire services and roads and whatever else we need the side-by-side for throughout the township. So I will disagree with Councillor McDonnell. I think it's probably time that we do purchase it, so we have that opportunity to at least see what the Peanut line is like. And once the report comes, then we have that opportunity to discuss how we're going to address that and how long it's going to take us to achieve goals for the Peanut line. So I'll go to Councillor Jaworski. You're on mute, but maybe Kelly.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was having trouble unmuting myself. I apologize. Thank you for you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of comments. I think of the units that are available, I think this is a good selection. I mean, some are more recreational and for zipping around, and other ones are more workhorses. And I think this is a very good workhorse model. With respect to, I mean, I think it's very much focused on the Peanut line, but we do have a lot of other recreational spaces where I think we'll get some use out of a unit like this, including Glen Walter Park and others. And I mean, to Councillor McDonnell's point, I mean, if as we go further down the Peanut line path, if we decide that it's not where we want to go, I mean, these units in particular hold their value extremely well. So there's always the option of, you know, selling it at that point. I think if we choose that, if we don't think that it's the right fit for us, but I think definitely we have that asset now, the Peanut line, and I think we should start as we have it. We should start maintaining it, and so the time is now. And if we change direction, then it can be disposed of.
Good point. I'll go to Mr. Mills and then back to Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Just to follow up on Councillor Jaworski's point that Glen Walter Park is a gem. It's hard to get around with a pickup truck, and if you're looking at time, If we have to walk around, or we have to use, we're contracting out the grass cutting this year, for example, so we won't necessarily be going around there with our machinery. You look at Smithfield, we do water the flowers in the village of Lancaster. And rather than, we got to think outside the box a little bit. We don't necessarily have to use a pickup truck. We could use the side-by-side to water the flowers, then go over to Smithfield and empty the garbage. And, they're very agile machines. This is just not peanut line. This is bigger thinking than that.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. Councillor McDonnell.
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's okay. I'll pass on my further comments.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing none. I have a motion moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Lyle Warden. Be resolved that staff report 28-2021 be received, and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry award procurement 04-2021 to Green Valley Kubota for the purchase of one Kubota diesel utility vehicle as per their submission of $22,663.36 plus HST. And furthermore, that the mayor clerk be authorized to sign any relevant documents. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. And it's great to see that it's a company and business that is here in our municipality. So thank you, Mr. Chief. We'll move to number 11, removal of a holding zoning bylaw amendment. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council and members of the public. Before you this evening is a staff report dealing with a request for removal of holding that we received for a property that's located on 149th Avenue with a legal description of part of Lot 8, Concession 1 in the former Township of Lancaster. The purpose of this request is the applicant would like to proceed with constructing a single detached dwelling as well as a detached garage. The property was placed in a floodplain holding zone simply because our floodplain maps that are provided to us from the province of Ontario are dated between 1989 and 91 and have placed this property in a floodplain area. So it was zoned accordingly and placed in a holding zone to allow property owners to update the mapping by obtaining a topographical survey for their property. And if they can prove that their property is above the 1 in 100 year floodplain, or a portion of the property is above, we can then proceed with removing the holding, subject to support from the Conservation Authority. And in this case, these tasks have been completed and achieved. And therefore, the bylaws before you this evening recommending that we remove the holding, and this will allow the applicant to proceed with site plan control, followed by applying for a building permit. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Haley. Any comments or questions? Pretty self-explanatory again. I have a motion moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be resolved that staff report 29-2021 be received in bylaw 12-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 38-09, the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of South Glengarry, site specific to south part of Lot 8, Concession 1, in the former Township of Lancaster, now in the Township of South Glengarry, the County of Glengarry, to remove the holding symbol to permit a residential development of the subject property site. Be read a first, second, third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 16th day of February 2021. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Haley. And number 12 is the Town Heights subdivision agreement. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this staff report deals with the Town Heights subdivision that received draft plan approval by the United Counties in the summer of 2020. When you receive draft plan approval, there are many conditions that are subject to the approval that the developer needs to fulfill in order to proceed to final approval and registration of the subdivision. One of the conditions is the preparation of a subdivision agreement, and the subdivision agreement will capture some of the other conditions as well as requirements from agencies such as utilities or the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. The agreement that's before you this evening is a template agreement that was prepared and reviewed by our lawyer. And it follows all of our standard requirements, including the subdivision design guidelines. Now, there's a few things that I'd like to point out to council, just so you to ensure that we're doing our job and following our policies. So one, I'd like to point out that in this particular case, we've requested cash in lieu of parkland as opposed to land being dedicated to the municipality. Council may recall this when we developed the draft plan conditions for council's approval. So you will see in the subdivision agreement that the developer will be required to provide $5,000 for cash in lieu. And this is consistent with how we proceed with our severance processes, where we ask for $1,000 per lot. Another component that I'd like to point out to you as well are the security components. When we develop what we call a rural subdivision, being the subdivision is serviced by private septic and well, we only require a 50% security deposit. The deposit in this subdivision is lower than what you would normally see, simply because the proposed 5-lot subdivision fronts on an existing road. So the infrastructure that needs to be constructed is quite limited in comparison to a subdivision where you're building roads, stormwater management ponds, things like that. So the dollar value that was provided to us is provided by the engineer and reviewed to ensure that it's an accurate value. So you'll see that that's why the security request is outlined as it is in the subdivision agreement. This agreement was also reviewed by our General Manager of Infrastructure Services and, of course, the developer's engineering firm, and also was encouraged to have the developer's lawyer take a look at the agreement as well. And they have agreed to enter into the agreement. So there's a couple other things that I'd like to point out to council. When we prepare a subdivision agreement, we're not quite at the very end of the process. So you'll see in the resolution that we're asking council to approve or accept the subdivision agreement, to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the agreement, but also to provide administration, which would be myself, to clear the conditions with the United Counties so they can proceed with issuing final approval. And you will notice in the resolution that we're requesting that council permits the clerk to make minor modifications to the subdivision agreement. The reason for this request is sometimes between now and the very final approval, we may have a situation where the lawyer may come back and ask for a word to be changed, or you will see in Schedule A where we have the reference to the draft plan, and I physically fill in the number once the plan is registered, things like that. So I assure you that there would be no modifications made to the agreement that would take away the intent of the agreement, or that wouldn't be following policy. And so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the agreement. I know it's quite detailed, but if there's any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Haley. Any comments or questions from members of council? She said it's a lengthy report, but it's pretty self-explanatory in the report. Not seeing none, I have a motion moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 30-2021 be received, and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry recommends to the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry to issue a final subdivision approval for the property legally described as part of lots 38 and 39, registered plan number 101, geographic township of Schlottenburg, now in the Township of South Glengarry, the County of Glengarry, also known as Tyotown Heights subdivision. Draft plan conditions, and authorizes the mayor and clerk to execute the subdivision agreement. Council permits minor modifications to be made to the subdivision agreement by the clerk without subsequent approval of council, so long the modifications do not change the intent of the requirements of this agreement. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Haley. And number 13, CIP agreement, Deco Stop Outdoor Center. Mrs. Baggs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to start this evening by thanking the CPAC committee for meeting so quickly. This application is a perfect example of why it works so well to be able to just pull the meetings together and not have set timelines for the community improvement plan. So situations like this can arise and everybody is able to meet, and it works really well. So for this application, it is for Deco Stop Outdoor Center. They currently exist just behind Aberdeen. They've purchased the new location, which is the old gym on Military Road. And they are requesting a new sign for the outside of their building. So the committee met on, on February 10th, and they approved the application that was set forth. It fit very well within the CIP guidelines for signage, and they are recommending the application to council.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from members of council? Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thanks, Shauna, for getting this to council extremely quick. Staff did a great job getting this together. The committee met on a whim. It was to accommodate this this business owner and get things passed in a timely manner and get things moving for them. And we look forward to seeing them open in the village. Thank you.
Thank you. I do echo Councillor McDonnell's comments in regards to staff and the committee for getting together very quickly, because that's something I've always pushed for in the past, is it's working with our local businesses to do whatever we possibly can to help them in regards to achieving their goals as a business here in South Glengarry. So thank you for that. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. You said it very well, and Councillor McDonnell as well. Thank you, Ms. Baggs, for bringing this to council, and thank you, in this case, Chair McDonnell and the committee, and having the committee convene very quickly to put this through. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing none. I have a motion moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be resolved that staff report 31-2021 be received, and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry approves bylaw 15-2021, being a bylaw to enter into a CIP agreement with Deco Stop Outdoor Center. Dan Foster be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 16th day of February 2021. And furthermore, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Baggs, and to the committee. Okay, we'll move into other business. This is a support resolution for small businesses that was brought up by Deputy Mayor Warden at the last meeting. I do have a motion on the table. I will read the motion, and it is moved by Deputy Mayor Warden, but I'll need somebody to second the motion if we're in favor of going forward. So it's be resolved that the council of the Township of South Glengarry supports the resolution passed by the town of Kingsville attached hereto, and calls upon the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, as well as the Ontario Cabinet and health officials to protect the health of Ontarians and our other small businesses by allowing them to remain open to an in-store sales and service with limited capacity and increased safety measures. And furthermore, that the resolution be forwarded to all Ontario municipalities. Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, the Honorable Victor Fedeli, Associate Minister of Small Businesses and Red Tape Reduction, the Honorable Pramit Singh Sarkaria, Minister of Health, the Ontario Christine Elliott, Minister of Finance, the Honorable Rod Phillips, Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, the Honorable Michael A. DeBola, MPP Jim McDonnell, and the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, Medical Officer of Health. You heard the motion. If I could have somebody second it. Second by Councillor McDonnell.
Just a point of order, Mr. Mayor. Is there not, former Minister Rod Phillips maybe should be amended? Is
yes.
It not former?
Yeah, it's Rod Phillips is not the minister any longer for Minister of Finance. It's a lady, is it not?
I believe so.
I can't remember her name, but.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Warden.
Yeah, sorry. So this is two council meetings late. This was supposed to have come up at our last meeting or the meeting before, but I feel that it should still be passed in case we end up in a situation where we're closed again or in lockdown. And it's imperative that the government here, that small businesses be permitted to remain open.
I agree 100%, Deputy Mayor Warden. I think it's good timing, only the fact I know we're just coming out of lockdown as of this morning, but if we do go back into another one, that hopefully they'll look at it a little bit more seriously the next round by keeping our small businesses open. And I do understand why the province do close small businesses and so on. It's to keep people from all over traveling from store to store to store to store, and it's to keep them in. I know everybody talks about the large box stores, which is the Walmart, but it's just basically the conversation I had with the provinces in the past is that it just allows them to go to one site, pick up everything they need and go home instead of shopping at all the stores and spreading the virus throughout the cities. But I do agree with Deputy Mayor Warden that our small businesses in our communities are certainly suffering across the counties, and we certainly need to support them and have them open as much as we possibly can if we do go back into another lockdown. Thank you for that. Councillor McDonald, will you second that? Are you going to second that motion? Your hand was up earlier, but.
I will second the motion, and I have the, yeah, for sure. I will second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? The motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Warden, for bringing it forward. And the second one is a support resolution, asset management extension, again, from Deputy Mayor Warden. Do you want to talk on that, Deputy Mayor Warden?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. So we passed this resolution at the county level, basically asking for an extension for the asset management plan that's supposed to be done this year. Staff at the county level expressed concern that while the counties was in a position to meet the deadlines, that some municipalities won't. And so I thought that if we passed it at the county level, that this council would consider doing the same.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I agree. Any comments or questions? I do have a motion moved by Lyle Warden. We'll get a seconder at some point. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry supports the resolution passed by the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, attached here too, and the MOFA's letter to the Ministry of Infrastructure requesting a 1-year extension on deadlines in regular 588-17 asset management planning for the municipal infrastructure under the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act 2015, so that all municipalities can focus on the immediate needs of the pandemic and engage in municipal asset management planning when capacity challenges are resolved. We have a motion on the table. It was moved by Deputy Mayor Warden. I need somebody to second that motion. So it would be seconded by Councillor Martin Lang. And you heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Warden, for bringing that one forward also. And number 3 under other business is automatic speed enforcement. Councillor Jaworski brought that forward from the last meeting. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So just to be clear, I'm not particularly passionate about photo radar one way or the other, but I brought it up because I'm passionate about supporting other rural communities who are trying to provide the services that their residents want. So based on the comments at the last council meeting, I reached out to Mayor Mayberry, who's the mayor of Southwest Oxford, and he gave me a bit more information that he asked me to share with you. So they've been working on this for about over 7 years now because speeding is a big concern for their residents through their hamlets. And unlike our area where it's the counties that pay for OPP, in their area it's the lower tier that pays directly to the OPP. So they pay about 1.1 million every year for the level of OPP coverage that they get. And if they want to have more enforcement, if they want to get an additional officer to target this kind of work, it would have like over a $200,000 budget impact for, salary, benefits, and equipment. So a year and a half ago, the Ontario government, they did a public consultation on whether or not they should put photo radar as an option again, as it used to be, because it was an option in the past. And the feedback that the government got was actually the public supported photo radar by a 2-to-1 margin. And so then they went and changed the regulations to allow photo radar or automatic speed enforcement in school zones and community safety zones in Ontario. So the reason Mayor Mayberry is asking for our support is because it's relatively new and there is some concerns that it's viewed a bit as a pilot project. And so they're concerned that they're going to invest in the equipment to do it. And then that there might be, the government could quote unquote flip flop on this issue and take that right away. So they are hoping to have support from other, municipalities so that if they choose to do this, that they would continue to have, that opportunity and they wouldn't waste their residents' funds in procuring this equipment. So I'm hoping that, that there might be some support around the council to support another rural municipality similar to our own.
Okay, thank you. I do have a motion. I'll read the motion. Be resolved that the council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby supports the letter by the Township of Southwest Oxford attached hereto in support of the use of automatic speed enforcement photo radar by municipalities, and that this resolution be sent to Premier Doug Ford, MPP Ernie Hardeman, AMO, and all Ontario municipalities. Now, again, by supporting this doesn't mean all municipalities have to do it. It's the choice of the municipality that is wishing and willing to have it in their municipality. So I need somebody to second that motion if I can, please, by Deputy Mayor Warden. And all in favor of the motion? Opposed? And the motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jaworski. Okay, and we'll move into the information, the ones that were pulled out this evening. So review of wastewater bill mock-up, Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just briefly wanted to comment. I want to thank Mr. McDonald for the mock-up that he produced. I think, generally speaking, I think it's actually much better than the other versions that we've seen up to date. And I did provide some minor language suggestions on how, for someone like me who doesn't receive these bills regularly, where I thought I have a cold eyes sort of suggestions on maybe making it some language a bit simpler. But I think generally speaking, it is. I think it's a really good step forward, and I look forward to what comes back from moving forward on it.
Okay, thank you. So, are you asking for another report coming back? Is that what you're asking, or just what's coming next?
No, my understanding is that Mr. McDonald showed us an example of what he'd like to bring to VADM to see what it would cost, to cost to implement it. And so my feedback is that I think it's a very, it's the right thing to bring to them. I think that if they come back, if they can implement that, it's a suitable bill.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Warden.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I concur with Councillor Jaworski. This is simple. It basically outlines everything, gives you the multiplier, gives you the cost. I'm 100% in favor of this. Let's get it done. Please and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for those comments. The portion that you see that is simple is what we made in Excel, and I do hope that VADM can mimic that. So we will go forth. It's just nice to have something that we say, we want this and we won't accept less, and then we'll go from there. So this is a little bit of Excel mix with it. So I'm glad that we have something that we all of us believe is a good bill, and hopefully VADM can deliver. Now it will be in their hands once they get from this. It should be formulas, it should be simple, but VADM is VADM. So I hope it will go well.
Okay, we hope you bring a positive report back at the near future in regards to the billing on water rates and so on. So thank you for that. We'll move to number 14, letter of Upper Canada District School Board response, potential partnership. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, I wanted to thank our mayor for sending a letter to the Upper Canada to formally express our township's interest in partnering with the Upper Canada District School Board, as it relates to the planned addition that's going to be coming to Williamstown Public School, a very much needed addition to a school that is very over capacity and has many portables. We're in a unique position in the township that our Charlan Rec Center is the direct neighbor to the public school, and this provides us with some opportunities to expand that community hub potential of this part of our township. So, and I also wanted to express that I was very pleased to see the positive response to your letter, Mr. Mayor, from the chair of the Upper Canada, Chair McAllister. So I look forward to South Glengarry staff and the Upper Canada staff, having conversations about what potential collaboration, might come about. And, I think this is exactly the kind of work that we should be doing with our neighbors, because this is really about, being as efficient and, as possible with the, ultimately taxpayer dollars, regardless of what entity they're coming through, whether it's a school board or it's a municipality. It's about making those tax dollars work and not duplicating. So I think it's great to see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know in the past it's been many discussions, even with yourself, Councillor Dworsky, in regards to partnerships with the Upper Canada District School Board, but I think it was time and felt that a letter, a commitment, I guess, from the municipality showing that we're prepared and willing to work with the Upper Canada School Board in respective partnerships. Like I said earlier, the more partnerships we can have with our neighbors is something that we should be looking into very seriously, as it keeps costs down for both parties, and it's our taxpayers that are the ones that are saving money at the end of the day. So we look forward to a staff meeting with the Upper Canada School Board to see what kind of partnerships we can join into. So we'll come back with later information at a later time. So thank you for that. And number 15, a letter from the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, Mass Clinics. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Yes, I'm very aware that, and council is very aware that staff is pursuing this. I just wanted to bring it to the forefront tonight, just so that the public is aware that we're doing this, and also for us to encourage staff to continue. The Eastern Ontario Health Unit just requesting any help they can get from municipalities as far as sites that they could use for mass vaccinations, possible drive-through sites. I hope staff has their thinking caps on, and I'm sure we all do. Depending on when it is, the arena, I think, would be an obvious choice. If the ice is out, I don't know if the main ice floor can even be heated, so it might be not feasible to do that, when it's still winter out. But as far as drive-through, I'm not sure what we have that we could do a drive-through to. Possibly if the fairgrounds was interested, the meeting place, it has big doors at either end. Maybe something could be done there if the temperature was open. I know it's private property, but the fairgrounds always works with the township well. So just to get our thinking caps on and make sure that staff knows that we support them 100%. If we can come up with ways that we can help get our citizens vaccinated, I think that's great.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Lang. I do sit on the Eastern Ontario Health Board unit for the 3 United Counties, and that's a conversation that I've had directly with Dr. Paul in respect that I was speaking on behalf of our municipality, but I know speaking on behalf of probably all the municipalities across the counties, that we do have facilities to help and support the vaccination of our residents here in SDNG. We certainly want to see them get vaccinated as quick as possible, so we certainly offered our facilities. I know, we certainly have the fire hall in Glen Walter. If it's access into buildings, we have the Glen Walter, we have Green Valley, we have Martintown, Williamstown, Lancaster. So we have many facilities that we can certainly provide. And I will certainly bring up the fairgrounds. I will pass on the chairman's name and phone number to the health unit for the fairgrounds, and they can have a conversation with them that if it is a drive-through, I think that would be a great spot to provide the vaccination to our residents in South Glengarry. So it's something that he definitely, Dr. Paul definitely said to me, other members on the board, that he will be definitely taking that into strong consideration, and will be getting back to municipalities, because he's going to need our support and supports in regards to some facilities in each municipality. So it is on their top of their minds, and we'll be continuing negotiating with them or talking to them in respect to what buildings they're looking for South Glengarry. So thanks for bringing that forward, Councillor Lane. And number 17, resolution MFIPPA reform, Township of Guelph / Ramosa. Is that how you say? Ramosa. Thank you, Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I'll just call it Guelph, and I'll leave the other name out, so I don't have to try to pronounce it. But they're bringing forward some interesting points here as far as the Freedom of Information Act and things that directly affect us and our clerk, and some issues that we've had in the past number of years. And in reading therefore to be resolved under their motion, I think they hit some very good points. This act is 30+ years old. It's time it was updated. The threshold for frivolous and vexatious things need to be addressed, and the cost that it putting onto townships, and they're also asking that that the integrity of the act be maintained and that to protect privacy and as well as the the transparency of the municipal government. So I think they've worded it very well, and I am supporting it 100%, and I think it's something that could help us if it was done. We know that we've had some issues in the past, so I would like to support this, and maybe staff could bring back something for next meeting that we could pass to send on.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Is there any other comments or questions in regards to that? Or does council look that they're supportive in regards to?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor, to bring it back.
The clerk is ahead of us again. She does have a motion ready in regards that if we were going to support it. So I do have a motion. Councillor McDonald, do you have a comment?
Oh, I just was going to say that just times have changed since the Freedom of Information Act was originally written. People can get a lot more information on individuals as far as say for the protection of our staff and employees. I think it'd be very wise to see it updated. So just a comment as far as that.
Okay. Thank you. So like Councillor or Deputy Mayor Warden said earlier, with the motion that he brought forward was a little bit late. So it's nice to see that we have a motion on the table this evening to support these as time's going on. Waiting 2 weeks or a month, sometimes it's sometimes too late. So I do have a motion moved by Martin Lang, second by Lyle Warden. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby supports the resolution passed by the Township of Guelph, attached hereto, and urges the Ministry of Government of Consumer Services to review the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and consider the recommendations as presented by the Township of Guelph. And furthermore, that this resolution be forwarded to MPP Jim McDonnell, the Honorable Lisa Thompson, Minister of Government and Consumer Services, the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, and all other Ontario municipalities. You heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? The motion's carried. Thank you, Councillor Lang, for bringing that one forward. And I have a resolution for Ontario Fire College closure, Township of Baldwin. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, I've read in the news about the closure of the Ontario Fire College in Gravenhurst, and I see that many municipalities are very concerned about the closure of this facility that, is a centralized location for, that provides training both of professional firefighters and volunteer firefighters from across the province. So I was hoping to hear from our fire chief about, maybe the impact of this closure and if we should be supporting this resolution from the Township of Baldwin.
Thank you. I'll go to Chief Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this request speaks to the Ontario Fire College. The Ontario Fire College has been in location in this town of Gravenhurst for many, many decades. A single fire college in Ontario is actually in legislation that it's a requirement. Now, in talking, the resolution, or sorry, not the resolution, the request is asking for support to maintain this site. The provincial government 2 weeks ago announced the closure of the site, not the closure of the resources that the Ontario Fire Marshal will bring to training and education though. So this request is focused on requesting that the province not close the site. Some background, South Glengarry, we have always supported the site, and we have, myself have been a graduate of numerous courses there. We've had numerous people go to the college. The college is 6 to 7 hours away. Most of the courses are 5-day courses. So it is very difficult for Ontario volunteer firefighters to take the time to go because it's usually holidays. It's very few of them have the opportunity to go as a paid position. So there's 18,000 firefighters in Ontario, career, paid on call volunteer, all positions. The capacity of the fire college is about 2,500 spots per year to get through. So it's very difficult for one site to actually maintain the training requirements of the fire service in Ontario. The fire service in Ontario is a municipal mandate. It's not a provincial mandate. The province does have the Ontario Fire Marshal with its resources. And one of those is to assist with training. So my feeling on the fire college itself is, while I very much enjoyed and appreciated the site, my opinion would be that the province will need to maintain training assistance in various forms, curriculum setting or assistance with resources towards training, and providing training staff and expertise in towards training. So I think there are some other models that are being discussed. There are regional training schools that are being developed throughout the province, so our members don't have to travel quite as far. My personal view is I appreciate the request that was put forward. I think from South Glengarry's perspective, with our distance from the Gravenhurst site, the closure of that site won't overly affect us as long as the province maintains the resources towards training and the resources that we receive, both myself, all our staff, but especially our training officer in Deputy Chief James Walker. As long as we maintain those services from the province, I think we'll be fine. So that's a bit more than maybe just the request was, but I wanted to make sure that council is aware of exactly what the province does provide to us through the Ontario Fire College, more than just the physical site to go to. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that additional info. So I think as it stands, we don't need to take any action with regards to, I'm not going to ask that we take any action with regards to this this resolution, but I really appreciate the additional information.
Okay.
So I guess your recommendation, Councillor Jaworski, is we don't do anything further with this motion that you asked to bring forward? Okay.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so there was nothing else that was pulled from the agenda? No, thank you. So we have a motion moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Lyle Warden. Be resolved that the council of the Township of South Glengarry accepts the items presented on the agenda as committee reports and for information purposes only. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. And we'll move to unfinished business. So I'll move to Mr. MacDonald in regards to the docks on the township property.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've pretty much completed what we can here because there's a couple of property owners that weren't interested in purchasing the property. So we just simply have to look at those, the options for those properties in the spring. Those will be followed up with Chief Robertson, acting Parks and Recreation Manager, and Mr. Mills. But we've done all we can with this. We can't force people to buy the property if they're not interested.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you. I think we certainly need to look at what we're going to do with those two properties. Certainly the one at the Oco, was it no Stinson or whatever, Stinson, I believe still, or Esso maybe, Esso now, sorry, in regards to that dock. And the private one that the private owners, we still can't get a hold of them. So, or she, I guess, in regards to that property. So we're not sure what their intentions will be at some point. That one I would like to see certainly stay in the municipal hands, but the other one we can have a conversation in regards to what we're going to do with that one, either have it removed or sell it off or maintain it as a municipal dock. That'll be, but again, I think we need to do that hopefully by the beginning of April, only because I want a decision made before voting season and everything starts in regards to that. Certainly the dock at the Esso gas station. We'll wait for a report to come back at that one at a later date. So thank you for that. And number two is the fire protection funds.
Yeah, Chief Robertson and I met with a consultant that's just doing the overview of the mechanical system there. We don't have any plans or condition reports on that system. So in order to prepare an agreement, we need to have that done. So that'll be coming forward in the next short while, probably within the next month to 2 months, and then the agreement will be brought to the property owners for the Middle Street Pond on just off of Hay Road for further discussion.
Okay, so I presume we'll be receiving reports from Chief Robertson at a later date. So we'll put that under his unfinished business list, I guess, which would be the only one at this point. But in municipal servicing from the city of Cornwall.
The letters have gone out to the Boundary Road residents. I've only received responses from one, so we'll have to maybe look at seeing how we can engage the property owners to provide us with some input.
Okay, thank you. I mean, if it comes down to we're not receiving anything, maybe we can have some type of a public meeting virtually, I guess, if we have to at this point. And if they have individual personal questions, they would have to get a hold of you separately, but maybe we can have some type of a meeting just to have a general conversation in regards to where the numbers and so on came from. But if that helps or works out. And private roads development of document.
That's completed this evening, Mr.
Yep.
Mayor.
Thank you. So that'll be removed. And LED streetlights for Glen Walter.
We met, I believe we had a fairly productive meeting with Cornwall Electric on this past Friday. So there will be further discussions. We've presented the proposal with some options as to how we can work together. And, you know, the theme of a couple of the reports earlier would be to partner and see if we can get the conversion project moving forward for the LED lights, for the street lights, sorry, that are in the Cornwall Electric service area. So that'll be carried forward. But we did have what I feel was a productive meeting, and the staff administration team that met will be circling back and meeting tomorrow to discuss the next.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Mr. McDonald. And corporate services, water rates and water bill design. I guess that was a discussion we had this evening. Mr. McDonald, is there any other?
No, nothing more to add. Thank you.
Thank you. And fire services, there's nothing. So that is it for the unfinished business. So I have a motion moved by Martin Lang, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry convene to close session at 8:48 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239 of the Municipal Act. A meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is personal matters about identify an individual, including municipal or local board employees, a verbal update, and a labor relations employee negotiations, organizational review, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And that's from the OMB update. And a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instructions to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. Negotiations agreement, intergovernmental agreement, sorry. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 items in closed session. So you heard the motion. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McDonald, for your last meeting this evening, and you're still around for a few more weeks, so we'll see you over that period of time.